Today, we're going to make some beetroot crepes. Not only do they look really cool, but they also have a pretty subtly sweet beet flavor, and they also happen to be vegan. So to start, you're going to need a beet, some milk, a little bit of oil, some flour, lemon juice, powdered sugar, and Aquafaba, which is just the liquid from a can of chickpeas. Okay, step 1 is to top and tail the beet, which just means cut off the head, cut off the bottom. Pretty simple. Next, you're going to skin the beet using a vegetable peeler, knife, whatever you got. Just be careful not to cut your fingers. Next, we're going to dice up the beet into small cubes, trying to get them to be as similar in size as possible. Now we throw the beets into the blender. Add 2 cups of milk and 1.5 tablespoons of oil. After that, just pulse to combine and then blend it all up into a uniform slurry. Here's where we add the Aquafaba. Now, your can of chickpeas should yield about 3/4 of a cup. Take 1/4 of a cup, add that to the blender, and set the remaining half cup aside. We will use it later. Next, we add the flour. I like to do it in batches because if you dump it all in at once and you find out it's too much, you can't exactly take it away. So do it a little bit at a time. Totally, I used about 1 1/3 cup of flour. Time to cook the crepes. So set the blender aside, get out a pan, heat it on medium heat, and then add some oil, just enough to form a thin layer on the bottom, and then keep heating it until it starts to smoke. You can test if your pan is ready by dabbing your hands in oil and then splashing a little bit into the pan, and if it sizzles really hard, then your pan is ready for some crepes. Use the blender to pour in a very thin layer, less than you probably think, and then swirl that layer around. After that, don't touch it. You're going to wait until all of the wet spots are gone, and then we can flip. When going to flip, keep in mind that crepes are pretty delicate, so start with the outside and go slow and be gentle. Also keep in mind though that the first crepe or pancake you make is always going to be the worst one. After you've flipped it over to this other side, give it a bit of time. Once it lifts easily from the pan, that's when you know to flip it back to the first side. Then set it aside and get ready for the next crepe. If you want to clean your pan at this point, you can, but you don't, strictly speaking, have to. You can't serve crepes on their own, you gotta have something else. So let's make that vegan whipped cream. To start, pour that reserved half cup of Aquafaba into a bowl with 1/4 teaspoon of lemon juice. Using a mixer, beat on high for about 2 minutes. All cans of chickpeas are different, so your Aquafaba might whip slower or might whip faster. Just keep going until you get to the consistency of whipped cream. Afterwards, adding 2/3 of a cup of powdered sugar, then again beating on high until you get a consistency of whipped cream. And now we assemble. Dollop some whipped cream onto a crepe and roll it up, trying to get the seam side on the bottom so that way it doesn't unravel and all your whipped cream spilling out. Put it on a plate along with the other crepes and spoon on some more whipped cream on top. And then garnish, or don't. Either way, you are good to go and your beetroot crepes are ready for the crowd.